I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. All right, could I get a motion to accept tonight's agenda? Can I get a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, thank you. Now could I get a motion to open to a public hearing? Move to the public hearing portion of the board meeting? Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, thank you. I will now introduce Mr. Calabufo, Superintendent, and Maureen Ladd, School Business Manager. And they will present the public hearing portion of the board meeting. After the presentation, we will be asked if there's any questions from the public. Okay?
Hello. One more time, I'm going to do this presentation.
Looking forward to it.
I figured you were. So tonight is our required public hearing for our revote. This is our new revote timeline. The budgets were completed last week. The next day, we started running our legal notices, and the budget notice was printed and put in the mail. It should be getting to people's mailboxes in the next 2 or 3 days. And tonight, over here on June 9th, is our public hearing that has to happen 7 to 14 days ahead of the vote. The vote is next Tuesday, the 17th, and this timeline is a quick one compared to what we normally do with our budget hearings. This is the public notice that has to go out, the requirement. They give us the standard, they give us the form, we have to do it just as it stands. And it is not really, it's not that user-friendly, which is why we do a lot of different presentations and present it differently at the public hearings. What it is our revenues and our expenditures proposed for next year, and this has it laid next to this year's budget that we're currently still in. We're proposing an increase of just over $4 million. Our revenues basically come from state aid and the tax levy. We apply fund balance, and we're applying a couple other sources of monies that are basically coming out of our reserves. This is the expenditure side of the same budget. The two numbers balance the revenue numbers. Again, just over $4 million increase. And this shows how it's divided between the expense categories. The 6 major categories that we report in are salaries, benefits, our BOCE services, debt service, which is basically our mortgage payments on our capital projects, and everything else in the utilities and fuels are separate. And basically 75% of our entire budget is made up of salary and benefits. Basically, we're a people service industry. This is the 3-part budget. It's the exact same numbers shown in 3 separate categories. This is what's required and what's on the budget notice. This one shows everything in our programming categories, the administrative expenditures, and again, the capital portion, the portions that are part of our budget. Another example, 75% of all of our money is spent on the programming, 16% on capital, and 9% on admin costs. This is our enrollment trends. I think it's important to show that over the last 10 years, we've lost just under 1,000 students, which drives some of the formulas that is one of the reasons that our foundation aid is now at a safe harbor of 2%. Some highlights of the budget we're presenting next week. The original one, we want to make clear the differences. The original one kept all the positions and the programs in place. There weren't any additions, but the goal was to maintain the progress that we had been making. The new one So I can point it out here. So the old one was up here. It was, the original budget was a 6.86% tax increase, and there was no budget cuts needed. So we looked through all the different tax increases and have decided to propose a 3% tax increase, and it calls for 1.2 million of expenditures that need to be eliminated. Go ahead. I can see you going.
Yeah, so I also think it's important anytime we have people in the audience, which is very rare, but the fact that we do right now, I think it's important that we touch upon this. I've been superintendent here for 9 years. During that time, the average annual tax increases have been 1.94%. So we've been able to do a lot of great things over the past decade. We've been able to have competitive salaries for our teachers and our administrators that were in the lowest in the county. We're at a competitive spot right now, but why does that matter to the community? It matters because I take hundreds of phone calls from parents that want to say how happy they are with their kid's teacher, right? When I started here, I took other phone calls, right, that weren't happy phone calls. But we understand that the family had an expectation that they wanted to have the best teacher in front of that classroom, they wanted to have the best administrator, and they wanted a superintendent that was also McKinney-Vento officer, hearing officer, fully all hands on deck, right? Where if a principal is out sick, I'm covering, my assistant superintendent's covering. We never have a building that's not manned. That's so important. But the big glaring issue was what we didn't have prior to the COVID money. We didn't have a police officer in every school, right? I think you'd be hard-pressed to find someone that would say that we don't need that, unfortunately, in the society that we live in. New York State and across the country, with the number of school shootings, with the number of pedophiles sneaking into schools, that exists, right? We need to have the police officers there. We did not have that. We didn't have counselors at the elementary level, and definitely COVID exacerbated that. There was a stretch during the pandemic, right after the pandemic, where within 3 weeks, we sent a 5th grade boy to CPEP for suicidal thoughts. The county is number 1 in suicide. The county, not school district. The county is number 1 in suicide, and it has been for quite some time in New York State, and for feelings of depression, severe depression among teenagers and adolescents. So we have definitely, we saw the need to have counselors at the elementary. We were one of the rare districts that did not have a counselor at the elementary or a social worker. So when we put all those things in place, more reading AIS teachers, all the research, not Tom Calabufo's research, but all the research shows that when a kid's not reading on grade level at the end of 3rd grade, they're 4 times less likely to graduate with their cohort. And then if they come from poverty, it's another 9%. So it's 13% more likely to not graduate on time or graduate at all. And so then the COVID money was gone, right? They gave us all of this money. But we knew that we couldn't get rid of our police officers, we couldn't get rid of the counselors, we couldn't get rid of our social workers. We increased our Farnham. Drug and alcohol is not just a problem in Central Square, it's a problem in all school districts. Kids are able to get this stuff online, it's easy. So the bottom line is, if we didn't go out at 6.86, we would have to make cuts. And that's what keeps us all up at night. Could we have went out at 3% and then made all of those cuts, right? Community wouldn't have liked that. But we understand, and it's not lost on us, and I'm not bitter about it. We just know that as we move forward, the state already said you're only getting 2%. They call it safe harbor, because we could actually be getting less than 2% with our enrollment right now. Micron will save us, that's 5-6 years out, with the numbers we're going to get. But they're saying Central Square, you don't have 5,800 students anymore. You got 3,500, maybe 3,600 depending, but you don't have the number. So you're only going to get 2% increases. That's millions that we're losing. But yet, we have the amount of staff that we have added. So how are we able to then do this and still stay competitive with all of the other districts so we can hire and retain the best staff? So I think it's really important that we have community members that are here today, that people understand that we did a lot of things that were free. We did free sports in the summer. That was a very big cost to the district. We did free band, another huge cost to the district. I'm not saying it wasn't a good idea. I took hundreds of phone calls, and I think there's some people in the audience that I had those phone calls saying that it wasn't fair that we were charging families. And I get it. There were a lot of people on the North Shore where there wasn't a lot of stuff there that they can do. But that comes at a cost. We won't be doing that this summer. We can't afford to do those free things. I think it's rare to find a 5:30 sports shuttle in any other district, in this county or in Onondaga County. We added so many things because we wanted to give that stuff to the community, not realizing that we were going to be whacked with state aid. But we also have to be very aware that the community doesn't have an appetite for a 6.86. I understand, right? So now we're praying to God that the 3% passes, because if not, now it's a total of 2.2 million. You will see class sizes go up. There's no way to avoid that. Right now, our class sizes are good. They're really good. At the elementary level, the middle school, high school, but especially at the formative years at the elementary, you've got kindergarten, it's 20, 21, maybe 22, 17, depending on stuff. And then as it gets into like 22 and second and third grade, then 24 and 25, that's pretty good. I've worked in districts where there's 30 at the elementary. My son with autism, when he was in kindergarten, he had 28 kids in his kindergarten class. We don't have that here. But there's a cost that's attributed to having those things. And I just want the community, if anyone's watching this online, to know it's so, so very important, this next budget. Go ahead, Maureen.
Okay. One thing I do want to say on this page, the original tax increase proposed, the 6.86, was not a supermajority. That was our property tax calculation. Sometimes there's a little bit of a misinformation. I know. It wasn't, right.
Well, and Maureen, I think that you had mentioned before in the presentation last week, but because we aren't going out at the full cap, our cap next year is actually high.
It could potentially be, depending on what other factors influence it. Yep. So for this new proposed budget, we need to reduce the 1.2 million. So this has been online now for 10 days, and we went through it last year, but we have come up with all different areas. We have positions, we have BOCE services, we have programming, we have athletics, and we have music. And that would be the 3% that we're asking for the vote on next Tuesday. There was also some transportation and some different supplies that we had been purchasing that we no longer will be. If the contingency budget comes into play, if it doesn't pass next week at the 3%, we'll have to do more staff cuts, possible class size increases, elective courses possibly at the high school, more reductions in the athletic, the bands, the fine art programs, reducing field trips and eliminating the half-day UPK bus run. That was a big ad that we did over the last couple of years that's really helped the lower level with getting them to school and participating. Some of the budget highlights for what we're proposing: it's a tax levy increase of 3%. The budget increase is 4.15%. Includes an interfund transfer out of our debt service of just over $500,000. We have health insurance savings that we're going to use towards it next year, $625,000. And we're liquidating the one-shot, a non-spendable fund that we have that's just over $1 million.
Maureen, if I could I've had parents ask me about the health insurance, and so I said that I would just quickly say, so when I came into the district, we had a minimum premium plan. That's not, the one step below that is to be fully self-insured, which is a very scary thing, a district our size, because there's a lot of things that can swing that. There are some districts out there that have gone up 26% next year in healthcare costs because they were self-insured. So there could be some years that are pretty good, and then it could be some years that are astronomical. We are part of the New York State Healthcare Consortium, which allows us to be able to long-term plan where it goes up 6 or 7% every year, but we know what it's going to be. I did say that I would say that. I just wanted to make sure I said it publicly.
And some of the more recent savings have come through negotiating. We've got a higher drug card, and we have edits and prescription managements that have been added into there. And when you do that, they make you reserve some money to make sure that your costs are going to come out as expected. So that's what this money is going back in now, because we have realized those savings. This is the second page of the budget, but I just like to highlight those one-time revenues because they're not always going to be there. So it's another item that we're going to have to think about in the future. Also, on the budget document, just wanted to show where the tax levy increase is of the 3%.
Lori, just stepping back for a minute about the healthcare. There's been a few people who have asked me questions about negotiations and raises and things like that, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to clarify, for those that don't know, in every contract that we have, where raises are decided and benefits are decided and all that, two parties come to the table and there's compromises made. It's the same as any other negotiating, scenario in any other department. And, remaining competitive from what Tom talked about, benefits, salary, raises, all those things kind of come together. And when we approach that table, I don't know if there's a misconception, but we come to the table with respect to the district, trying to get the most bang for our buck. So we're trying to, get teachers that are qualified and the best of the best. We're trying to have, parts of the contract that are competitive. So for instance, we talked about a few times that all of the contracts in the district right now, that was the number that both parties agreed to that was fair. And vice versa, we want to try to pay not as little because we want the value that they're giving us, but, the most part and parcel with that, things are negotiated off of raises. So they may want a 4% raise, and they make concessions with respect to benefits, and that's one of the things that you were alluding to. The district is saving money because we're asking them to pay more of a
Yep.
portion of this. So, it's all a function of a negotiation.
Exactly.
People wanting to give here and get here, and so I just don't want the public to think that, we walk into these meetings and we just at whatever level.
Yeah, and another thing that I'll add to that I think is a little bit misunderstood is, unlike private industry, these benefits are in their contracts and need to be negotiated. We can't change benefits without negotiating that piece out. I think in the private industry, a lot of times, they can save money like they just change health insurance plans, but those aren't options for us. And I think that's a big thing, because people look at the health insurance costs, which are huge, and just say, like, did you go looking? There's got to be cheaper plans out there. And it's like, we can't go looking. We have to negotiate these things to try to get different items on the table.
No, and in the spirit of transparency, the elephant in the room, my contract. So when I was started here, I was 100% healthcare paid for. I had zero of my own contribution for my family healthcare. I said, that's not right. I should contribute what the teachers contribute. They contribute 11%. At the same time, that's still a negotiation. But that was part of my 4%, was the fact that I was also giving up the 10%, or the 11%, so I would match. In the end, if you look at my 9 years here and what I've paid out of pocket that I wouldn't have paid, and I have no problem, anyone to call me, full transparency, but that plays a key role in it, so I'm glad that that was brought up. When people just look at 4%, they're not really looking up what was given up to save the district to do that.
Just one more clarification going forward, obviously considering what we see, what happened to us this year with respect to the significant change in state aid, and also, the tolerance of the taxpayers with respect to their increases, it's going to be a much more difficult conversation because, like we said, our neighboring districts are negotiating contracts right now, and those contracts are paying 4% and 5% raises, and so to remain competitive,
Correct.
Yeah, so they would
Yeah.
have 4%. So, I mean, that's the position that we're in, and so naturally, that's unsustainable. I mean, I don't think anyone at this table thinks that if we're gonna get 2% on state aid, which is more than half of the funding that our district gets, not, it's going to be interesting to see how that, knowing that it's not sustainable, so.
Yep, correct. The one thing I want to point out about the tax levy increase of 3%, that is not the tax rate. And your bill is figured on a tax rate. So the tax levy is our piece of the pie, but there's also town assessments in there and equalization rates, which we have no control over. So when we put out a levy, that's the total that's going to be collected by the district. But it doesn't show how it's going to be divided between all the towns. It's like a pie, like this, and we're going to get the same total no matter what, but it can be done differently across the townships that we place our levy over. So the levies are total amount that we get each year from all the property owners, but the rates are calculated by dividing that total amount by the taxable assessed value of each township. And then they're affected differently based on which township they're in and what the equalization rate is that New York State Real Property Taxes puts on them. And they're doing that calculation because most towns don't stay at full assessment. So you got three factors going on in there. So if you look at that, there's plenty of people that will have their taxes increase even with a zero levy increase, and vice versa. You can get a 3% levy increase, but your actual township won't have a tax increase. This I'd like to show because I think it's very relevant to the discussion we're having. So everybody, of course, wants us to put out an estimate of what is 3% going to be, but we're only using one piece of that three-piece pie. So right now, when we're estimating it here in April, but it's May now, we're looking at $13.91 per thousand. It's June, I know. Which obviously is lower than the estimated rate was last year. But when you take the actual, which is what went out last August against that estimated rate, it's going up 40 cents per thousand. But what actually happens if you go across the lines here is the actual rates never meet our estimate. So I always think the estimate we put out is high. I think it's important to say that because we only know one factor at this point. So that 40 cents per thousand is an increase of an estimated $40 per $100,000 of assessment. I like to show this because I don't know if people understand, but in Central Square, where the yellow line, our tax rate compared to the other districts in the county, there's 2 districts that are lower than us, there's 2 districts that are almost the same as us, and there's 4 districts that are higher than us. So if you were to pick your house up and move it over to Phoenix, you're gonna pay more based on nothing except the tax rates. And this is our own tax rate over the last 6 years. When you go zeros and not to the property tax limit, you lose rate. And that's what's been happening to us. It's essentially like, I know you all learn it at your, your conferences and stuff, but they basically say that money's been left on the table. And that's why we're trying to go out to our tax limit this year. So for next Tuesday's vote, proposition is going to just be the number 1 because everything else passed. So we're asking for $102,658,363. That's basically the expenditure package, and all we're voting on is that total. The line items will ebb and flow as the year unfolds, and hopefully the estimate is high enough to cover everything that we need. I want to just reiterate again that we now have 3 polling stations, and those are actually divided by the townships. We have 11 townships in the district. So location number 1 is at the American Legion. So it's a village at Central Square, but the town of Hastings, West Monroe, Parish, Shrewsbury, Mexico, and Palermo. Election district number 2 is out at the Constantia VFW, and that's the village of Cleveland, towns of Constantia, Amboy, and Vienna. And the new one that we opened this year is at the Brewerton Fire Department, and that's the towns of Clay and Cicero. Also important to note, for this vote, which is different than the one last month, we have new voting times of 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. So it's a couple less hours, well, 1 hour on the end, but 2 hours or more in the morning. And when you look at our voters, there's very few voters that show up between those times. And we had some difficulty getting people to work the polls again. So we really tried to consolidate it a little bit. So we hope that everybody will come out on June 17th and vote. It's been great that we've had such good participation. And now it's time for questions. And it is a public hearing, so people in the audience can raise their hands and ask if anybody has any questions. Hi.
I'm Melissa Rowe. I live on the North Shore. There's been a lot of dialogue about what happens next beyond this.
She can't do that, so then if people are watching this, you don't have to get up, she'll hand you the mic. Because then that way, the people in the audience or at home can hear you.
I think they can hear me anyway. I'm Melissa Rowe. I live on the North Shore. There's been a lot of dialogue about what happens next beyond this. So I'm hoping that maybe we can have some clarity about the budget planning process for future years, since we have a lot of educated folks now that have learned a lot from this process, and what the participation level could be from the community in that budget planning process moving forward.
That's been different over different years. We've had times I've been here for 25 years, I hate to say that, but we've had times where we've had budget committees and community members in different areas, and people have put their input in, and that's then brought to the administrative level, the cabinet level, and then we present based on those ideas. I think now we know going forward, we never know what our state aid is going to be until basically after our budgets are passed. But if we're looking at 2% on the foundation aids, which is the biggest piece of the budget, we're probably going to always need to be dialing back on some of the items versus doing more. So potentially we could do a different process. We normally do it by department, by building, by admin, and then bring it into the cabinet and do it from there.
Yeah, during my 9 years here, we tried a lot of different things. I would do coffee with the superintendent to talk about budget, any other things they wanted to talk about. I would do that at 6:30 in the morning, and then I would have something at 6 p.m. I really only had Randy Hoyt would come to those, right? And so I brought donuts, I had coffee. Nobody came. I'm not saying this to sound bitter, but we would do those. I would travel around into groups in the community. I was in a home for Lions Club in Central Square. There were about 30 people. I broke down the whole budget. I talked about everything. I talked about what the increases have been over the 10 years. But Melissa, besides you at the last hearing, there was nobody else here. So I also understand the way that social media works. Somebody could take something and then run with it. That's in any district, right? Every district has a parent forum. Every district, West Tennessee, ESM, they all have a parent forum. I 100% understand that. I'm not downgrading that. But for all the people out there that would hear something and not call me, this goes off all the time. It's my work cell phone. So I know people have the number. Weekends, Christmas, I answer the call. But for people not to I've gotten hundreds of phone calls in the past 10 days. You can ask Pearl. And they're like, well, we didn't know. We're going to come out and vote this time. I want to make sure that we're registered. Here's the thing. I'll do whatever it takes. And it doesn't just have to be in the month leading up to it. I will have those breakfasts with the superintendent and then after and answer anybody's questions. Because I can only answer the questions that I know that people are having, those questions. I don't troll the forums, and I'll tell you why. because I'm also the McKinney-Vento officer and I also do superintendent hearings. So I already have a humongous target on my back when there's an assault or when there's drugs and I have to suspend kids out, right? I know that. There are people that don't like me. I get it. It's the job. I have to have thick skin. But I also love going into elementary classrooms and the kids know my name. I didn't know who my superintendent was when I was at West Tennessee as a student. But that's my job, and that's what all superintendents do. I see Chris Stass in the audience. He's another amazing superintendent. He's everywhere in his district. But that's what it is, and that's what we do. But to answer your question, Melissa, what I would like to do more of is have meetings with the sports boosters, have meetings with the band boosters, have meeting with any of the parents that want to meet on their time, whenever works best for them, and to answer those questions, because Maureen does a great job. If you look at what we've done over 9 years, closing the old district office we got no aid on, closing CSI, we right-sized a lot of things, capital projects that we had not had for 13 years. And so we're able to do a lot. By having CSI down there as a swing space, it's saved millions of dollars when we put out capital projects to bid. So moving forward, I want to be able, there's things that the state doesn't allow me to do. I can't say something like, hey, vote yes for the budget. Unless the budget goes down, then the state allows me to do this. I'm not allowed to do this for the first budget. I can't say anything that makes it look like I'm trying to get people to vote for the budget. Although that's like my job, is to get people to support the budget and support programming. But I want to hear from parents. I want to hear from community members, because we have these events with our board. We have times where anybody can come in, with work sessions, and we talk about these things, because moving forward, I want this to be a very informed community. So a budget doesn't get voted down again, that we have to think, okay, what are we going to cut from last year that's going to impact? I don't want to get rid of, I enjoyed paying for the summer sports and summer band because I didn't want the haves and have-nots, right? I want opportunities for people. But I also know we can't ever go without having a police officer or counselors and the reading teachers. So there's things that we can't get rid of, but there's a lot of things that parents really like. I hate the fact that it's paid for next year, but I hate the fact that moving forward, we can't pay for elementary supplies. Not a lot of districts do it. On average, it's $75 a kid. If you're a parent that's got 2 or 3 kids, that's a lot of money. We were paying for that for the past 3 years. We can't do that anymore. So there's things that we were doing to try to offset the cost, but now I realize we won't be able to do certain things like that. Now, if there's great numbers that come out on the 17th, and the community steps up and says, all right, we right-size this, we're going to do this, and we have those meetings throughout the whole year that people say, you know what, maybe a 4% would work, because we only know we're getting 2% foundation aid. We need to know what the feeling is from the community, because it's a crapshoot what we put out. So if we can say, you know what, we didn't, our average was 1.94 over 10 years. We think by going 2 straight years at 0, maybe the community will say, no, we don't want you to cut anything. We were wrong. And I have to learn from that. And I have to move forward, and we have to put out a budget and a program that's reflective of what we can afford. Thanks, Maureen.
Mm-hmm. And one other thing, Melissa, I've just had time to think about it now. Come to these board meetings. I start the budget process in September with a fund balance analysis and talk about reserves. And then I think it's November, I start doing 3-year projections. And then I've got revenues, debt, every piece of it going through the entire cycle until we get to the budget time. And that's like that. There's a lot of information there, but nobody hears any of it because nobody comes to these
Mrs.
meetings.
Pownell is up next. You want to hand her your mic?
Thank you. Jen Pownell, a parent, but also representation of the athletic boosters for Central Square. So Tom, when you say the summer programs, I just don't know what the rules are, and I'm asking, can we raise money for these summer programs when the schools can't do it? Because
100%.
we do a great job of fundraising, but we need to know about that. I know these things happen, but that's where I'm excited to hear from you that you want to meet with the band boosters, the sports boosters, because we do have a great community. We know the value of these extra programs for these kids. Because listen, if kids don't have something to do, they're not going to go home and read a book.
Correct.
they're going to be out in the community, sometimes not doing great things.
Yeah.
So we got to keep them engaged. So I encourage you guys to definitely, I'm going to call you out next year, like if we don't meet with you, because it really is needed. And the other thing, and this, I had a question for you, Maureen, is that I noticed on one of the line items, we have other income. So there was retail, I think property or something like that. There was donations. Donations went down by an exorbitant amount. Like, what are we doing as a board and as an administration to look elsewhere besides the state and taxpayers to get us more revenue for these children?
Let me take a crack at that. So for the first one, it's not interscholastic. So for summer programs, the boosters you can do all of that. That's the pay to play. That's not that, right? So if it's summer programs, like that's how it used to be. There's a lot of sports boosters or band boosters. They fundraise, like they do that. And then that money they pay that person. So it's not the district. The second thing is we're always looking. Unfortunately, there's really just two main revenue streams, but we've done a lot over 9 years. We have a significant number of families in North Syracuse and Liverpool now that are now paying tuition, and I keep giving tours to Bishop Grimes families that don't live in the district. Now, that's not huge numbers, but it's $7,700 tuition to send your kid there. If it's a special needs child, or even 504, it jumps to like 56,000. So we don't have any tuition based for that, but we do have general ed students that are paying tuition, that they weren't paying tuition before. And so, one, that's a testament to the program and our staff members that the parents want to pay tuition to send their kids here. That's great. But looking for other revenue streams, we are looking at what CSI can be, right? So I think you saw a reduction in custodial staff. We weren't actually getting rid of a custodian, but there was an open spot. When we'll go into it, we're removing a position because we don't need 2 custodians with a building that's going to be empty next year. But we are looking at that. The problem is, do we look to maybe for a teacher's college, but the problem is, I firmly believe we're going to need that in 5 years with the enrollment size. So it's great to be able to have there, but we're also going to need it for Brewerton. So we're probably going to end up putting half of Brewerton and the other half, the lower level of Millard Hawk, that hasn't gotten that the capital project work yet. So again, that's a savings of us having that building because it's super expensive to try to find an empty school somewhere and pay what the going rate is to rent it. But again, I'm all ears. I go to boards, school boards. I go to NISCUS, and we talk about what you're asking because lots of districts are going through this. It's just really hard because as a district, Maureen, if you want to touch upon
Yeah,
how
I
we
was going
can
to
do
say,
revenue.
it's, a lot of that is hard just because we're so regulated. And so, I think CSI is the perfect example. It would be logical that we would rent it out and make money on it. Well, that's basically not allowed. It can't even be used for for-profit centers because when we bond and have our debt, it's tax exempt. But to be tax exempt, we have to basically remain tax exempt. So like that, we can have educational programming in there, whether it's a BOCES or possibly a college that's also a not-for-profit style, or maybe some daycares that are not-for-profit. But you really can't make money. The second we start doing that, we lose our tax exempt status. That's a huge no problem. And the same thing happens with advertising and things like that. It's essentially not allowed. We can't profit from our students, their names, our properties, any of that type of stuff. So it is very, very small constraints of where we can get money. Anybody else? Thank you very much. We're always available. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Hello, my name is Sam Partridge. I'm a Central Square grad. I have 2 kids in the district, live right here in the village. Something I just wanted to bring up to everybody. Tom, I know that you said that you don't peruse the forums. I tend to do that. The general consensus that I'm hearing from the vast majority of the voters in the area is they have a very strong feeling about having a almost 7% tax increase, and the first thing that they hear when it gets voted down is, well, you're getting sports and band cut. Now, when I was in this district, almost 20 years ago, we had those 5,000 enrollment numbers, and we didn't have near the amount of administrators that we currently have. So with having lower enrollment numbers, yet more administrative numbers, saying that sports and band are the first thing to go does not sit well with the voters.
So I would say, because this is a forum, so I can jump in, I would have to disagree with the number of administrators, because the middle school used to have a whole nother house, right? They used to have even more administrators there. When you look at district office numbers and you compare our district office numbers to other districts, you'll see that they don't have a superintendent that's also the McKinney-Vento officer, which is the homeless status, which is a job in itself, or they're paying BOCES $300-400 a pop to do the hearings. So I do that. When I think of the elementary, we don't have assistant principals at the elementary, we just have a principal. Correct. At the high school level, our numbers are still strong at about 1,100. Here's the biggest difference. I'm not going to guess how old you are. I'm going to say I'm 50 years old. Mm-hmm. So you look like you're about 35. All right. See, I can work at the fair. The biggest thing are all the investigations. So if you were to come in and see our high school or middle school, the administrators look like they've run a marathon at the end of the day.
Yes.
Because it's not just drugs. There were no vapes when I was younger, right? But perceived bullying. So at any given day at the high school, we'll have anywhere between 30 to 40 parents call in, and they want an immediate investigation done. They'll bring in volumes of social media, right? There used to be a time that if a kid wrote something, again, before social media, if a kid threatened another kid or did something at home, right, or on a spring break, that was on the parents, maybe police officers, they'd figure that out. Now the state 100% has it on us. So if a kid does something on social media, it never even happens at school. New York State Education Department makes us investigate that thoroughly. So if you look at the numbers that have gone through the roof on DASSAW related, that didn't even exist back then, but Dignity for All Students Act. So for the number of kids that they'll say a racial word was used or a homophobic slur was used, that it automatically warrants an immediate investigation. So with all that being said, something that also changed 20 years ago is the state said you have to do these many observations of teachers, right? You got to be in classrooms, you got to do all of that. It's the APPR. You got to meet with them within a certain contractual time period to give them the feedback. But at the same time, you still have the 10 or 12 investigations that you have to do. And so we're always mindful of that. And don't get me wrong, if this budget goes down, there will be administrative cuts as well. So for all those parents that are saying, the principal, I called this morning, it's now noon, they haven't called me back, and I tell them they will. There's just a lot of parents that are calling. Now, to add to that, the governor wants a bell-to-bell ban. We, as a board, the board here adopted, and it's working. So now we're trying to figure out what the governor's saying, well, that's not good enough. So now this is the cafeteria. At any given time, there's 350 kids. So now our admin are going to have to say, whoa, you got your cell phone, right? So that's going to generate even more hours of investigations that are now going to have to go into that and during study halls and things like that. So you are correct in the fact that a long time ago, there wasn't so much put on the administrative plates. Now, legally, there is. When we set it at 30%, with the 3% tax increase, we did say there will be some sports, but really it's minimal. It's the summer programs that when you were here, your family's paid for. It's just really within the pandemic that we were paying for those. Because parents, and they were right, they would say, Tom, this is garbage. Just because I can't afford to pay $250, that kid's with it's the varsity coach also happens to be their summer coach. That's an unfair advantage, and they were right. So we said, we're going to pay this. That was a huge cost. But you ask a good question. I'm glad you asked it because I wanted to be able to have the opportunity to say the cuts to sports and band were minimal. If this gets 2.2 million, so if it gets voted on the 17th, you'd be hard-pressed to find any district that didn't say, okay, modified sports are gone across the board. It's hard to make 2.2 million. and still be able to do that. The other thing too is when we were 5,800 students strong, our special ed budgets weren't even as high as they are right now, because more and more kids get identified with special ed services, whether internally or they come from another district. And for some of them, that could be anywhere from $300,000 to $400,000 a year with all the services that we're legally obligated to provide, not just with teaching assistants, but programs. We could get a kid, and this happens, they come in from another district, their program is so restrictive that it costs us $400,000. And the state doesn't say, no, thank you, we can't take you. You do bring up a good point, and that just, I have to sell it better. I have to do a better job explaining. Like when we say there are cuts, sports will be touched, band will be touched. With this proposed budget, those are minimal. We will be reducing a lot of our assistant coaches that we just added. So it's not going to be programming. Even our modified teams were not even, because if we did that, that would be 84 less kids. So that same amount of money, we're having the weight room supervisor, that stipend is gone now. Kids can still go in the weight room with their coaches, but we were also providing kids, maybe they didn't even play sports and wanted to be able to use the gym. Those families maybe couldn't afford a gym membership. But I'm glad that you asked the question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it. I went to a meeting with Will Barkley with all the superintendents, and the superintendent from Oswego, I think, put it best when he said that the districts are now required to solve a lot of societal problems, okay? And it's created by law, and it's things that the district has to do. It's not simply just a place to go and learn and get an education. Is that there's a lot of societal issues that have to be addressed with social workers, police officers, counselors. Those things are required by the district now to be done. Now, who's paying the bill? We all are. And it's not being supported. The state, they say it's an unfunded mandate, but he said it the best. If you want us to solve societal communal issues, give us the money. But you're not. But you're still requiring us to do that. So that to me, that's the handicap of it. And if you want to know about the budget, attend the board meetings, because Maureen, we look for it. I tease her about it every year. It's all year long. We go over the budget. It's important, right? The voters have the final say on it, but ultimately, there's a lot of effort, a lot of work goes into it to make sure that we're getting, as Christy said earlier, we're getting the biggest bang for the buck for what we have to do and how we have to compete and provide the services that the district requires.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see the room full. About how many hours people spend scrolling.
Yeah.
Watch the meeting.
You can go back and watch meetings.
Right.
Or just, and click off and just watch, fast forward to the presentation and go past that.
Absolutely. And so, trying to accommodate an informed and engaged public makes all of this so much more productive and easier. So we love it. I've had so many people ask, are the board meetings open? Yes, 100%. They're wide open. Come to the meeting, listen. Out, for all the years. So.
I think it's also important that it's what are you getting for your money? So when I came into the district, we were really only sending about 75 kids to city BOCES. We're sending over 175 now. These kids are getting out, and I do want to say this. I blew a flat tire on 49. Looking at the size of those potholes about 2 weeks ago, maybe some of you did as well. They did patch those, but when I blew the flat tire, I quickly pulled over into urgent care. I'm looking at the tire, both tires, my right side gone. And a parent pulled over, happens to be the father of our valedictorian. There's no correlation there, I promise. She earned that. It wasn't because he helped me get my tires off. But his name was Vern Sunday, and he pulled over, and we both looked at it, and we couldn't figure out how to get the lug nuts off because there was like plastic on it. And then there was a boy, now a young man, who went to Central Square, graduated. He went through the City BOCES program in auto body, and I remember because we used to have conversations when I used to have to get on that bus sometimes, going to BOCES to talk to players or talk to the students. And he said to me, he said, "There's a tool for that. That's anti-theft. Pop your trunk." Pop the trunk. He saw the tool. He's like, he bent down, popped it off, and I looked at Vern's son, and we're like, "Well, I'll be damned." I said, "What do you do?" He goes, "I work at Collision over at Drivers Village." So that is one of the students that went out of the 175 that we send every year, that he's making a great living for himself. And I just bring that up because these are the opportunities for me to bring that up, because when I was a student at West Genesee in 1993, they said your only goal is to go to a four-year college. You failed if you didn't do that. That's the biggest joke going, because college is great and there's a pathway for that, but it's a joke to think it's the only pathway. And so we send students a great number, more than any other district, but we should because we're the largest in the county. We have multiple pathways. That is a cost to send that many students to BOCES. All right? It's a cost to have as many college courses that we offer here, but we do that. And again, the lesson that I learned is I can't wait to be asked. I need to, like I said, go call the sports boosters starting in the fall, call the music boosters, have regular meetings, and then start my breakfast with the superintendent, dinner with the superintendent mentality. We do that every other month, and hopefully people will come out.
I don't think it gets picked up, though, on the recording. People that are not.
Okay, it's really quick. Mary Ellen Dodge, I'm a parent. I'm out on the North Shore. And from several people I've told who went to vote late, there were no ballots. So I want to make sure we're going to have enough ballots, especially out there this time, and not writing on slips of paper.
It's a crapshoot, so we have been flowing, averaging maybe 500 to 800 voters over the last 6-7 years. So we ordered 1,800. We thought, oh, we'll get double. You never know. And it wasn't enough. So this time we had 1,700, so I think we ordered
6,000. We ordered 6,000.
but
And it
I
wasn't
mean,
that they were turned away because we were playing the game of getting some, bringing them out.
They just couldn't go through the machine. Yeah.
But with the number of parents that have said, we're coming out to vote, we went with 6,000 this time.
And it's hard to know because they're also very expensive. So you hate to take the 3,000 of them and throw them away.
We
It's
also
a
want to
tough
think
call.
there were also 700, I think it was like 743 yes votes. That's more than the total number of votes last year. And the year prior to that, we only had a total of 420 people came out in the whole district to vote out of 17,000 eligible. So it is a guessing game to know, but we got 6,000 this time.
If I could I get a motion to close the public forum? Can I get a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you very much. That concludes that portion of the meeting. Yep, if I could get a motion to open the regular board meeting. Get a second? Oh, any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you very much. Okay. So, that leads us to item C, Community Open Forum. I have one blue card that's been filled out. Randy? I don't know if Maureen left it on or not.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. So you guys actually covered a lot of what I was going to bring up, but I wanted last week at the end of the meeting, I don't know your name, I'm sorry. David? I'm Randy, nice to meet you. You turned around and you had said, this is our money, we've already spent it. So you're right, we do pay this tax money. So I made calls this week. I've relocated. My family is formerly from outside of Albany, where we were from a very small town. And the district there was dying. They refused to fund, they refused to pay for their teachers. They just refused to build the school. And guess what? The community was dying. My family looked around and we said, we're not going to raise our children here. We picked up and we moved here because everybody we knew that was out here said, this is an excellent district. The people here care about this district. We're going to take care of it. This is a great place to have your kids. So it was quite a hard thing to swallow that budget didn't get passed, that the standard that everybody talked to us about, the reason we came here, was going to be lowered now. So I took your advice. I work in Albany. I live here and I make that commute. I went to Senator Ryan's folks. They were not receptive whatsoever to the problems that we're having. That 2% that they gave us, which is kind of laughable because it's our money they gave us. You didn't give us anything. We gave you that money, and you're saying, we have other priorities that maybe we need to handle right now. That's nonsense. They came back and they blamed you. They blamed you. They said that you failed Economics 101. And that was it. I was there for 20 minutes trying to get a point out to say, we are the flagship district out here. We're in a red county where it's going to be difficult to convince voters that we need this money, that if you don't invest this, what is it, 40 per every 100K, right? Which I looked, and I think the average home in our district is about 220K, so we're talking 88, something like that. Yeah, $100. You can just round it up. By the way, I spoke to you last week. You were awesome. Thank you. So I went, and they're not receptive whatsoever. They're like, you need to go back, and you need to tell him to go back to Econ 101. How dare you expect that the money that you got every prior year, you were going to get again? Yeah.
You're right.
That's nonsense.
When they told me that I went out 0 2 years in a row, that I left $5 million on the table, you're 100% right because they said the same thing to me. That was my fault. That we should never have went out with a 0 to the community.
Okay. So I go to our assemblyman, whose name is escaping me right now because it's kind of worthless to know. What's that?
Yeah.
Well, he's a member of the party currently lighting the education department on fire. You can guess how receptive they were to me speaking out. They're not interested. The point of this is a community problem. This is on us. Don't worry about social media. You brought up social media is not a real place. There are people out there making genuine arguments, talking about how we need to fund this system, how it's going to impact their children, how it's going to impact students. And people go, yeah, but you're making so much. Our teachers, they're making too much. They can make a disingenuous argument and cut you down. Go talk to somebody face to face. Don't go to social media. Go to your neighbors, go to your friends, go to your parents, go to your grandparents. Talk to people face to face. That's how I learned about all of this. Some of our friends, I have a 6-year-old Miller Hawk, you rock, by the way. And the other parents, that's how I learned about all of this. And shame on me for not showing up. I don't want to hear anything about the teachers get paid too much. You want to pay them not enough money? Well, guess what? There's plenty of other places they can go right now. Plenty of other places they can be. We are currently retiring more teachers than we're putting out there. We need to attract top talent. We need to put that money out there. So thank you very much for pointing that out. They're not listening. This is not going to be solved at the state level. I actually asked everybody, from the people answering the phones to the chiefs of staff, how does the equation work that got to that 2%? Nobody could explain it. It was hilarious. So they're like, well, currently, they're lighting the federal government on fire. There are other things that are more important right now that we need to worry about. More important than education and healthcare? I don't know. That seems like a disingenuous argument. It seems like we're kind of passing the buck. Thank you for bringing that up. And everybody, this is a problem that we're going to have to solve locally. So get out there, tell your friends to vote, parents, grandparents, anybody you see, tell them to vote. We don't need to just pass this budget. We need to pass it with numbers that are convincing enough that the message to you isn't we don't have the appetite for 9% or whatever. The message needs to be that next year when this budget comes around, that you're not going to come out at 1% or 2%, that you're going to go all the way with it. I support you guys. You're doing great work. To all the teachers, my son is at Miller Hawk. We've had Mrs. Hanson. We have Ms. Stolzenberg right now. These are excellent educators. They care about these children. Get out there and let's do our part to support them. Thank you very much.
I don't normally respond when someone comes up and talks, but I appreciate your involvement. Very well put, and it does have to happen at the local level. So thanks for coming out and supporting the children.
Thanks for bringing that up. I wouldn't have gone and done that, but it was a good point.
And I'll just echo the sentiment from our elected leaders. When I met with them personally, it wasn't good. So it's you speak the truth, sir. You speak the truth. Okay. On to item D. Special presentations to the board. You want to do it?
I'm going to do these two first.
Yes.
I don't think we have to go for this one first. So, being a board member is a thankless job, no doubt. Contrary to what some may think on some forums, they don't get paid. It is voluntary. And so Randy Hoyt collectively has been a board member for 26 years of service to the district. And I just want to say one quick story. I lose track because of the pandemic. This could have been 2 years ago or it could have been 4 years ago. But the police had captured somebody that was not a good person. And he got away from the police. I still don't know how that happened, but he slipped out of his cuffs. And for about 3 hours, the helicopters were flying. It was at night. I was still here. And Randy quickly came over because I always let the board know if there's a police presence. And he walked each of the varsity basketball players to their car because they didn't know where this person was. So Randy, living literally right here, I'll get a phone call on a Sunday. There's kids flying on motorcycles on the Millard Hawk thing. He'll call me. I'll get the people out there. So for 26 years, he's been our watchdog. His house is literally a stone throw away. 26 years of supporting students and being at athletic events and being at band events, coming to BOCES to watch the kids get their accolades over there. Randy, not only for this board, but for all the previous board members and superintendents that sit in this spot, because you've been here for a lot of different superintendents and interim superintendents. We want to thank you starting from July 1999 to present time. Thank you for all your years of service. We've been very fortunate to have excellent student board representatives in this district. I think I saw a parent out there in the audience, Mrs. Foster, whose kid was one of ours. Stand up. He was amazing. And he really set the tone. And I will say this, Mateo, you have done an amazing job as being a student board rep. What you bring to the table on your reports really show what you said that you would do, is connect with all the different groups at Central Square. I've had students that have come to me and sung your praise. So whatever career path that you're going to go, I already know you're going to be a great public speaker. You're going to be a great communicator. You really took the job very seriously. And I know one day you will actually be a real board member. I would love for it to be here. That would be excellent for the community. But again, Mateo, thank you so much for being here when other kids, they're studying, they're at sports, they're doing whatever, but you made a great commitment, and we appreciate everything that you have done. Thank you.
And we're going to miss you cutting Tom's briefing in half.
100%.
100%.
Great job. For those of the people in the audience who don't know what she's talking about, so we always have my board report. His would be done so great. They don't like when they say that I talk too much, which is true. But he did a great job, and my board reports were super quick because of Mateo's really thorough reports.
Thorough and shorter.
Thorough and shorter. Okay, so now we can go to the presentation of retirees.
Pearl, you ready? Okay. All right, so we are going to go by school, and I have got the first three because our administrators, Mrs. Hill, I don't think has missed a board meeting yet, but her son had a makeup t-ball game tonight that she had to be at. So Lori Richards has retired. She is currently in Nashville, but what a miss she is. So for over 2 decades, Lori had been a steady, caring presence in the school district. As a teaching assistant, she wore many hats. Yes, she did. She was a mentor to many. She helped anywhere she could. She was a cheerleader and a great friend, not just to the students she supported, but to all of the lucky enough people to work beside her. She brought patience, compassion, and a quiet strength into every classroom she entered. She had a way of making every student feel seen, every teacher supported, and every challenge feel just a little bit easier. Her positive reach and influence extended well beyond the walls of our schools. She was a fixture in the North Shore community, and her contributions to our students and their families are truly appreciated. We're excited for this next chapter in her life as she lives it down in Tennessee. So Lori Richards. Joanne Wines retired with just a few years, but she is currently back subbing at Millard Hawk daily. But in the fall of 2020, A.A. Cole was in need of a long-term TA sub. She came in for the year, and then a few days before the start of the school year, she was asked if she would be willing to fill the position, and she jumped at it. Her care and compassion for students and colleagues is evident in her everyday actions. She's one of the kindest individuals you'll ever meet. Her love and support of students will truly be missed. We wish her all the best as she transitions into the next phase of her life, which for the next 14 or so days will be subbing at Millard Hawk. So Joanne Wines. At Brewerton Elementary, Lisa Tolson is retiring. Lisa and I started teaching together when I first came to Central Square and taught out at A.A. Cole. And then as I transitioned to Brewerton, we ended up working together there too. She's always gone above and beyond for students and staff, the buildings, the families. She has done it all. She was a member of many building committees, district committees, and just worked diligently to get her kids to read. That was her main goal always, and what a job she did. So her experience will be missed and her dedication, but we wish her all the best on the next chapter. And I know one of her big goals is to do some more golfing while she still can, so I'm sure a hole-in-one will be in her near future. So Lisa Tolson. With 25.7 years of teaching here. Hastings Mallory. I'm going to, Mr. Smolnick could not be here, but I do know that this, are they all here? I know I saw them. All right, well, we'll do this one first. All right, Lynn Amel is a special education teacher has been for 25.2 years. She has brought compassion, patience, and an unwavering commitment to her work. She has been a fierce advocate for her students, always seeing their strengths and helping them reach their fullest potential. Her classroom was a place where every child felt seen, valued, and supported. Lynn's ability to connect with students, families, and colleagues alike is a gift that has left a lasting impression on all of us. She has taught us the power of empathy, perseverance, and the importance of meeting every child where they are. As Lynn steps into retirement, we know she takes with her not just memories, but the gratitude of an entire community. Her legacy will live on in the success stories of the students whose lives she changed for the better. Congratulations to Lynn. Carol Feeney is here, and she has been with us for 19.9 years. And Mr. Smolnik says, just shy of 2 decades, Carol has been a pillar of Central Square. She has worn many hats. She's also a mentor, a motivator, and an advocate and a friend. But most of all, she has been a teacher in the truest sense of the word. Her passion for education, her unwavering patience, and her belief in every student's potential have shaped countless lives. Whether it was in the classroom, at school events, or through quiet moments of encouragement, Carol brought a level of dedication and heart that will be deeply missed. As Carol begins this next chapter, I hope she realizes her impact will be felt for generations. Thank you for everything you've given to this district, and congratulations on a well-earned retirement. We have Linda Smith, also at Hastings, for 20.5 years. She is a teaching assistant that has served the students and staff of the Central Square School District with dedication, heart, and humility. As a teaching assistant, Linda has been more than just support in the classroom. She's been a guiding light for students, a trusted colleague to staff, and a quiet force for good throughout the district. Linda's ability to connect with students, her steady presence, and her unwavering patience, Mr. Smolnik likes that word, unwavering, have left a lasting imprint on everyone she's worked with. She never sought the spotlight, but her impact has been profound and deeply appreciated. May you enjoy a much-deserved retirement, Linda. I am now going to turn this over for Mr. Smolnik to do the next retiree. Not Mr. Smolnik, Mr. Colabufo. Oh my God.
All right, so for this next one, and I know she could not be here today, correct, Aaron? There's a lot of people. Right. This is a hard one. So Jennifer Smolnik has been principal. She's been working in our district, first as a teacher, then as a middle school assistant principal, and then she has been the principal at Millard Hawk Elementary up until partway through this year. She was 21.3 years. I know that I would be remiss if I didn't thank our amazing community for the support that you not only gave Jennifer through this extremely challenging time, but also to their entire family. They have 6 children in the district. That's a very difficult card to be dealt for anybody. And she has held herself with such amazing class and professionalism. Her staff with the Smolnik Strong t-shirts has been an inspiration. When I have difficult days, it's very easy for me to just pause and to think of everything that family has gone through and what she has gone through. And it's not over. And she's going to win. She's going to beat it. And I want to thank, again, not only her staff, I want to thank our Board of Education, our community for really rallying behind the Smolniks during their time of need. Definitely, I didn't want to be having her retire as early as she had to retire. But for those of you that never had the opportunity to meet Jennifer, amazing. She's a warrior. She loved being around kids. She had to make a very difficult decision with her family and her doctors, and that was to retire early medical. But Jen will not be forgotten. As she has said, she wants to volunteer. She wants to be able to come in to the buildings. She is going to beat this. How about a big round of applause for Jennifer Smolnik? Thank you. And now, Jeff King for Central Square Middle School.
For the middle school, we have 2 retirees. Our first one, I tried to come up with a good speech for Chris Browse. I used ChatGPT, and all it could come up with was lucky, Missouri, leaving, nice weather, and her laughing at me. Well, besides those things, I've basically been in the district the same amount of time as Chris. She's always been a person that's been a strong advocate for students, and not only has an expectation for them to be successful, but also holds herself to that same level and her own children. She has been beyond a positive impact to many, many students that we've all been lucky enough to work with. Chris Browse, 24.6 years of service. Our other retiree is Liz Stevens, who had actually only been with the district for 2 years, but came to us when we had truly a dire need for a tech teacher in our technology department. And she came over and definitely filled that void and did a fine job for us while she was here. Thank you to Liz Stevens and her 2 years of service here with the district.
Mr. King is saying he had one job to do, and that was to introduce me. Well, that's okay. We're all right. We're all right. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for giving us this chance to honor our retirees. I'd like to start by recognizing their collective work. Their employment with Central Square represents nearly 228 years. What an amazing accomplishment that they all have completed. Our first retiree is Martha Carnes, one of our special ed teachers, 30.2 years with us. And although Martha wasn't able to be with us tonight, I wanted to share that from the moment I met her, she was warm and welcoming. She has fantastic style, and she's looking forward to spending time with her children and her husband. But her husband isn't retiring yet, so maybe she'll be willing to come back and help us out with some subbing. If you're watching from home, Martha, think about it. Congratulations to Martha. Vicki Dale is one of our teaching assistants. She has nearly 20 years of time here with us in Central Square. Vicki is a longtime Red Hawk program teaching assistant who's made wonderful connections with our students. She has great perspective and supports her fellow teaching assistants as our co-building TA representative. I appreciate our conversations, and I'd like to thank her for all of her help. Congratulations to Vicki. No. Next, our retiree is Heather Gulo, social studies teacher, 25.5 years with us. While I don't have a song about Heather, I know we'll be singing some at our end of year party on the 27th. Heather has personality galore, if you have not met her. She is supportive and kind to all of our students. Heather does a wonderful work with our one-act play program, if you've had the pleasure of coming to see our performances. And she's a great supporter for Unified Sports. She is so dedicated to our school community. Congratulations to Heather.
get a picture of this.
Our next retiree is Mr. Ron Haldeman, music teacher, 23 years with the school district. Ron is such a talented musician and teacher. He is wonderfully organized, which I greatly appreciate, with so many music events that happen throughout the school year. And I know if he tells me that the Red Hawks are performing at 2:37, they will start exactly at that time. He's a recent inductee into the Fine Arts Hall of Fame and was invited to play at Carnegie Hall. Amazing accomplishments throughout his career. Congratulations, Ron.
I think it's also important to note that he's always here. Whether I have to make a decision at 3:45 in the morning to send our band kids on a trip, he always answers the phone. Or at 10 o'clock at night when I'm like, it's a complete whiteout, we've got to get the band kids home. He always makes that happen, sir. I don't know how.
Our next retiree is Catherine Kolajasic, teaching assistant with 18 years of service with us. Kathy is affectionately known as Kathy K. And my first interaction with Kathy was try to pronounce her last name to give her an anniversary service pin. It was a struggle for sure. And I don't believe she's with us this evening, but we're very grateful for her years of service and her work with all sorts of our students. Congratulations, and we hope she enjoys her retirement. Frederick Kiwanis is next. Woo-woo. Science teacher, 32 years. Matt and I are both science teachers, so we have a particular place in our heart for a fellow science teacher. Matt says he's a great guy and would be fun to hang out with. Really, Matt said, have a beverage with, but we'll keep it PG at school. Along with Vicky, Fred has been a Red Hawk teacher for a number of years. He is very active as a runner, and he's an avid cyclist. He's an outdoors lover and is looking forward to being able to spend more time with his family. Congratulations, Fred. Rock on. A little science humor for you.
Can I say a word? Over 40 years ago, as a student, I hated school. I would show up here with knots in my stomach. But I had the most phenomenal earth science teacher, Paul Cardinelli, my teacher, and then to work with him as my mentor. And my whole career has been trying to live up to his legacy. And thank you for your words, because it's a community here and it's special. So thank you.
Good job, good job. Stephen Perry is up next. Social studies teacher with 30.3 years of service. When we asked his colleagues for some thoughts about Steve's career, it was mentioned that if a lesson can be taught using a yard sale find or with an old 45 record, he's figured out how to do it. We appreciate your willingness to teach our students a little something about economics, and that you're always willing to be a detention supervisor. Thank you for that. Congratulations, Steve. We hope you have a wonderful retirement. Melissa Scramali, teaching assistant, 17.8 years. Melissa is a pretty quiet person, typically, around us at least. But I've seen her make the best connections with students. She's incredibly patient and doesn't take too much offense to what our teenagers sometimes come out with. She has been so appreciated, and we wish her the best in her coming retirement. Congratulations, Melissa. Congratulations. And good job always with Emily. And our last retiree, Missy Stats. Art education teacher with 31 years of service. Missy is the first one to greet and welcome someone to Central Square. She is funny, kind, and thinks the best about all of our students. And she's bossy enough to keep our students in line when it comes to NHS and graduation. And we appreciate your organization. Missy will know your birthday, all of them, everybody's. And she'll come up with the most thoughtful gifts. My son moved to Texas, and she got me this lovely New York, Texas necklace, and it's just usually out of the blue that she'll think of something like that. Her friends have commented about how loyal she is, how she is so talented, and she finds just the right greeting card and sticker for the occasion. Along with Ron, Missy is also a recent inductee into the Fine Arts Hall of Fame, and we are so very proud of her career. You don't often see her without her sidekick. Where is she?
I got in trouble the other night.
Oh, stop it. Dolly, and they are both a delight. Congratulations, Missy. Enjoy your coming retirement. Matt just said maybe the sidekick is Chris tonight.
Yeah, there are people that are clearly not replaceable. Missy Stats is one of them. Having our district office here at the high school, you hear students say all the time, they're going into college for the arts because of her. So I can't tell you, echoing what Dr. Sweeney said, the impact that she has had on generations of students has been amazing.
I love your kids.
Great job. And now I'd like to introduce Mr. Paul Brissett, our Director of Facilities.
Good evening. My first retiree tonight is John Landers. John started working for the district in 2013 as a full-time second shift custodian at the middle school. John worked at the middle school for a short time and then moved to Hastings-Mallory Elementary. John worked at Hastings-Mallory as a night cleaner for over 4 years when a daytime lead custodian position presented itself at Central Square Intermediate School. John was awarded that position and worked there for over a year until the lead position at Hastings-Mallory opened. John decided to go back to finish his career at Hastings-Mallory as a lead custodian, and we thank him for his 11.4 years of service. My second retiree this evening is Mary Ann Smith. She started working for the district in 2002 as a second shift custodian at Baltimore High School. In 2009, Mary Ann decided she needed a change and accepted the position at A.A. Cole Elementary Building. She worked at A.A. Cole as a second shift custodian until 2014 when she decided to go back to the high school where she finished her career. We thank her for her 21.8 years of service. Now I'd like to introduce our transportation supervisor / park ranger, John Pierce, and our transportation supervisor, Jason Fellows.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight is, I'm not making it about me, but last year, of course, I retired and come back for the year. And now it's, I think this is going to be my last public event for the district, and it's bittersweet. It's finally coming around. This is the time, and now I'm getting nervous. But Jason Fellows, 25 years with the district, has taken my place, and he's been on staff now for a little while, doing a great job, and transportation's in great hands. So
It's not winter yet.
this is true.
5 months of the year, John's on the phone with me starting at 3:30 a.m. And that's what you have to look forward to.
Oh, yeah. So tonight, we honor 5 retirees with a combined years 76.1. So tonight, we're going to start with Kim Backman. Kim has devoted 17.1 years behind the wheel, safely transporting countless students through every season, every challenge that come her way. Known for her great communication skills with parents and her great attendance, and very reliable, very reliable. She was there all the time. Kim exemplified what it means to be a trusted and caring professional. Her presence will surely be missed by the students, the parents, especially the colleagues. So congratulations, Kim. Kim's not here tonight. Next, we recognize one of our mechanics, Michael, but we call him by Scott. So Michael Scott Vendura, an auto mechanic with 20.3 years of service. Scott has been a pillar in our garage, someone who's we all depended on, and kept our fleet in top shape. His attention to detail, commitment to excellence was especially evident in his work. He did all of our New York State DOT inspections, and he had a high 90s pass rate for the years that he was here, so congratulations on that. And he also stepped up to do some sub-driving for us, so thank you very much, Scott. Congratulations. Our next retiree is Frederick Bianco, who served as an auto mechanic for 10.2 years. His skill, precision, dedication, that guy, he was the go-to guy for everything. He could fabricate parts, complete engine builds, tackling transmission replacement. Whenever there was a tough need, we put Larry on him. And also, he did a lot of the buildings and grounds and work for Paul. So, Larry, thank you very much for your service. We really miss you. And he also sub-drove. Driver Deb Juzik is another shining example of a dedication in her professionalism. With an impressive 22 years of service as a school bus driver, Deb's career has been defined as reliable, compassionate, and unwavering commitment to student safety. Through early mornings, icy roads, and all the challenges that come with the job, she showed up with a positive attitude, a steady hand at the wheel, and always had a quick story to tell us in the morning when we handed out the keys. She still does. And she still does. She built a lot of strong relationships with the students, and she's going to be sorely missed. So thank you, Deb, for everything. Congratulations. Finally, Bill Tyson. He had 6.5 years driving, and he had a shorter career, but he made a meaningful contribution every day. He was dependable, kind to his students, and respected by his peers. And his cheerful attitude and team spirit is going to be missed. So congratulations, Bill. Thank you. And we don't have to introduce anybody. I think we turn it back over. Thank you guys for everything, for your support.
So at this point, there is cake, and I know there's going to be pictures for all of our retirees, and everybody is welcome to cake over here on the other side.
Sorry.
Thank you.
No, that's good.
Can I have a picture of the group of the retirees over here, please?
Three and a six-year-old son, and I have a 3-year-old that, good luck to all of you.
Yeah, I think there's one right on the corner.
That's on us, because we weren't talking to each other. We weren't communicating about it. Let's all talk. This school system is hard. Don't love online, because they'll make everybody out like, no, this school system is incredible. One of the things that really struck me is we had like one day this year where we did like remote instruction, and I was listening to Jen Rosenberg, like going through the students and like every child, how she has to teach them, where she has to meet them, and I was just like blown away, like how incredible this is. So. There's a bunch of the younger parents, like, I guess we hadn't figured out, like, what the engagement looked like, what the responsibility was. But, like, now we've all started networking with one another, and like, we were paying attention. Yeah, that's a drop. This is what we're going through right now. We're trying to keep it all in. They didn't want to do it was like, it's our money. You weren't giving us anything.
Taxpayers. We're asking taxpayers to pay more. And as a taxpayer, you say, listen, pay the federal, pay your state, and you see the money that you're paying. Also, trying to get out there and make solutions.
That's what I think a lot of people like me got involved into, that it automatically happens, and now all of a sudden didn't work, and we're all like, oh, wait a minute.
I didn't know this entire process. I wasn't informed with the knowledge.
How many more concerts
Because when people start listening, like, wait, this doesn't run like, I thought so-and-so takes care of that. It just doesn't. It's going to be a great board.
Right now, I have a 3 and a 6-year-old, so I'm a little occupied at the moment. Like, we both work full time, but my we're working on getting more involved. Like, we chose you. I moved my family out here, and just because, like, remember Sue Lacey? So our mom, when her husband was stationed out in Jersey, we were best friends. We were on the swim team with them. She and her son was in best friends with my brother. Like, so that's how I knew about this area. It was like there's nothing but the most amazing things to say about the district. So when we needed to relocate, I wasn't going to put my son in that school. It was like, well, we can either have him a bad education or I can have a bad commute. And I chose the bad commute for you. So,
I said there's a lot of connections there.
So we're limited in the time that we have, so I'm trying to figure out where I can place enough time where I'm going to get this, like, the district's going to get the best value, or my kids are going to get the best value.
Doing the right thing so far.
Over the years, we'll. This conversation is happening with the young people. Like, what can we do? I reached out to.
Hi, Patty.
They reached out to Tom, he was occupied with me, but Pearl was even able to be like, hey, he's over here, but I'll give you, here's what I'm going to download, and then she was like, you need to talk to Maureen. I have her for like 40 minutes. I was like, I apologize. I'm so sorry.
It's okay to ask the
But she was excellent too, so keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Got one roll call or two roll calls? One roll call? Yeah.
And that's all we've done. Every time I have a buy-in.
Oh, so there's only.
I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Maureen.
If you need anything, let me know, okay? 'Cause I'm here to stay. Where are you going? Oh, you're giving Stellar a hug. I'm sure. Is there a fire? No, that's fine.
I don't want to yell at Randy.
Oh, yay. Oh, my God. Oh, my gosh.
I love that.
Okay. Okay, Randy. I think I got the bum one. There's like one dud. Okay, Randy. We need you to finish up. Yeah. Okay, I want to thank everybody, and boy, we cleared out the room. Grab some cake on the way out. Okay, if I could, I'll get a motion for item E. Any discussion? All those in favor? If I could get a motion for item F in its entirety? Any discussion? All those in favor? On to item G. Mateo, last report. Let's go.
Okay.
Clear out Tom's thing. You're counting on you.
Oh, fingers crossed. Okay. The Top 100 event took place in the Paul V. Moore Auditorium, celebrating the academic achievements of the top 25 students from each grade. Congratulations to all those recognized for their dedication. The Paul V. Moore Gymnasium hosted Signing Day, where 17 amazing student athletes pledged to continue their athletic journeys in college. Congrats to each of them. Congratulations to the students representing Paul V. Moore High School on being inducted into the City BOCES National Technical Honor Society. These students demonstrated academic excellence, character, and leadership, meeting specific eligibility criteria. The Student Government Talent Show was held in the Paul V. Moore High School Auditorium, featuring 50 students across 20 performances. Isaac Young won the solo category with his cover of Frank Sinatra's My Way. Eli Connor and Preston Lacey won the duo category with Stay Gold from The Outsiders. The band Lazy Bones, consisting of Jonah Martinez, Will Card, Andrew Card, and Alex Papaleo, won the group category with their rendition of Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. At the Senior Awards, 73 graduating seniors were honored with over $400,000 in scholarships distributed through 141 awards. The event took place in the auditorium with generous scholarship donors making these achievements possible. Congratulations to all awardees. The high school parade band had a great day at Darien Lake this past weekend. They took first place in the parade, scoring a 99.3 among the 2 high school bands that performed. The band also got to spend some time enjoying the park. Congratulations to everyone involved. Congratulations to our outdoor track and field sectionals champions. Abby Tetrault took first place in the Class A1 discus with a throw of 102 feet. Charlie Raymond won the 800 meter with a time of 1 minute and 57 seconds. The girls 4x400 team, consisting of Hayden Crisafi, Stella Brancaccio, Cadence Williams, and Rachel Ganzer, also secured a victory with a time of 4 minutes 11 seconds. I also wanted to recognize Aubrey Green for qualifying for the 2025 States in pole vault at 10 feet that will take place this weekend, and Cadence Williams for breaking the 40-year-old 800-meter record with an impressive time of 2 minutes and 15 seconds. And lastly, congratulations to girls varsity softball player Caitlin Redeye for breaking the school strikeout record with 577 career strikeouts, and to girls varsity softball player Peyton St. Clair for breaking both the triple record with 11 triples and the RBI record with 63 runs batted in. And that's all from me. And thank you guys for being so welcoming this year.
Board members report. Then you can have it. Ease up on the mic there, mister. Does anybody have anything they'd like to report out? No, I am.
No,
But
it wasn't my turn.
It wasn't his
He's
turn.
up on the mic, mister.
I sent out the email, so if you want to run for board president or vice president, send your name into Pearl, and she'll put you on the list. It's the only thing that I have, and we'll turn it over to Tom.
Okay, Mateo, awesome job. Couple things I just want to add from the athletic department. Sincere congratulations to our first-year flag football program gaining a sectional championship in its first year of existence. They were the only team in Class B, but their dedication to a brand new sport and an excitement that they played showed every single time that they played. They were a great pride to our community. The team will travel to Mooresville State College on May 31st for a regional contest versus Columbia out of Section 2. In addition to the flag football team, our softball team won their sectional game on Saturday and takes on West Genesee in a sectional semifinal tonight at 7 p.m. at Carrier Park, which find out how they did. The varsity girls lacrosse team opened sectional play last night with a dominating. You might want to said that before I started reading it, bro. But the boys' baseball lost. Okay.
Flag football won. That's what Callie just told me.
Fantastic. All right, Pearl. All right, here we go.
Thank God there's so many people.
Here we go. Level 1 Board Achievement Award goes to Mr. David Tackman from the New York State School Boards Association. Congratulations. Congratulations, sir. And the last one, we have Mrs. Casey Morey, earning Level 1 Board Achievement Award from the New York State School Boards Association. Congratulations. That concludes superintendent report.
Okay, we'll try this one. If I could get a motion for H1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
I'll motion. I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Can I get a motion for H6, approval of the bus bond resolution, roll call vote required?
I'll motion. Second.
Any discussion? Take it away, Pearl. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Then could I get a motion for H7, H8?
All motion? I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Now I will make a motion that the Central Square School District Board of Education hereby move into executive session to discuss matters leading up to the tenure of 4 particular people with action to follow. Can I
I'll
get-
second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? We will be back.
All right, now I'm taking my cake and going. Beans, I eat a lot of beans. It takes a while to build up to the fiber.
Should be on the table.
Okay, can I get a motion to return back to open session?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? And I'm going to make a recommended resolution that the Central Square School District Board of Education approves the extension of the time of Beth Navarro's probationary period to September 5, 2026. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Now, can I get a motion for adjournment?
I'll motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you very much. Randy, thanks.
Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, thank you.